we cannot cut back on what is put there in the curriculum. Because if we cut back now from the curriculum, what is going to happen to those other functional pupils? How are we going to deal with the illiterates and leave the others to fend for themselves? We are going to make them like the others. We're going to make them literate. So for the ministry to say we should cut back on the curriculum for the struggling pupils is nonsense.
So we're recommending that we probably have special education classes within the school system.
Yes, that would be a very good recommendation. Because if you have the special remedial of small groups, you cannot have them in large numbers, because if you have them in large numbers now, you would not be able to deal with them on an individual level. Now that would be a very good recommendation, and the ministry themselves, they should go into these classrooms and see some of these.
Well, I would challenge the Minister of Education, Mr. Bash, to get out there and spend a week in the classrooms. I mean, I've gone into some of these classrooms.
Yes, the administrators and the teachers should invite them to come out, teach for a week,
and see what we're faced with. Well, this is a topic that, it's a lengthy topic. I think what Jane was introducing here, and what Eric Phillips, colleague of mine, have been pushing for, is the fact that we must have this national conversation. It needs to be an urgent discussion. It needs to be rapid solutions. That the end of the day is our children. Life is at stake. If they cannot come out of the school system knowing just to do the basic read, Jane, as we end your segment, you mentioned two students' future, what they wanted to be. What was that?
Yes. The question was, what is it that you want to be when you grow up? The child's response was, I would like to become a teenager. And I've got a response from many pupils.
A taxi driver or a nail
One
picker.
would like to become a taxi driver. Nothing is wrong with those professions, but in order to improve and develop yourself now with those professions, you will be able to read and write. Nothing is wrong with becoming a taxi driver. So you can see what it is that the ministry is doing to them.
Thanks, Jane. We're going to switch to our second topic in a few minutes after the break on national defense and some of the issues we're faced with there. But I appreciate all of you listening to this particular segment, and Jane and others, teachers, parents, community leaders alike, get on board and let's figure out how to solve this issue. And he needs to step up to the plate. They're the ones earning our taxpayers' money and spending it. They need to spend it wisely. Let's take a quick break, and we'll come back talking with Vaughn Phillips on national defense.
A government which does not waste the people's money. That is essentially necessary for having government.
Has this been achieved in the last 18 years? Get to know Guyana's People Partnership. Plan for a better today. Together we will.
A government which does not waste the people's money. That is essentially necessary for having a lean government.
Has this been achieved in the last 18 years? Get to know Guyana's People Partnership. Plan for a better today. Together we will.
A government which does not waste the people's money. That is essentially necessary for having a lean government.
Has this been achieved in the last 18 years? Get to know Guyana's People. Plan for a better today. Together we will.
Defense is a foundation of peace. In any country around the world, countries invest a certain amount of their GDP in defense. One sad part, and many of us know that Venezuela claimed 5/8 of our territory in the Essequibo area. President Chavez came to our country 2 weeks ago, and sad part, none of our parliaments or government stood up and told Mr. Chavez that take your claim off of our land. This is our land. We want to be able to drill for oil in the Essequibo coast. We're drilling for oil in the Quarantine. We'll talk about that in a second. But the fact is, the reason why we're not developing the Essequibo region, which is one of the richest regions in our country, is that Venezuela claims that territory, and the fact that we're doing nothing about it cause our development is like Chavez and the Venezuelan country holding a hostage around Guyana's neck that we must not develop Essequibo for oil. So we've got to put emphasis on our sovereignty. We've got to be bold. We have to have bold leadership. The fact that defense is the foundation of peace. Yvonne Phillips is one of our executive members within the Alliance partnership here, and he was an ex-soldier, an infantry guy. I've been, many know, in the U.S. military in the Gulf War. We're drilling for oil in the Quarantine, Vaughn. Instead of we should be drilling in the Essequibo area. That's where the oil is. But we will find oil very soon, and commending those that are pushing for that. Are we protecting our assets today? What's the future of protecting a potential oil nation?
Well, we've already had a little bit of taste of what the security situation is. We had an incident in 2000 with the CGX, which is a Canadian company that's in partnership with Guyana, and they're doing some oil exploration off the Quarantine, and basically they were forcefully ejected from the Quarantine area by Suriname gunboats. And basically, we had, as a country, we had two choices then. Our policymakers, our Ministry of Foreign Affairs, our president had two choices. Basically, we could have used the defense force to secure that company, secure that area, and the CGX could have continued their work. But we chose to do the latter. We chose to go to the United Nations, and we lost a lot of time. That took us
5 years.
5 or 7 years.
But we haven't even, we talk about Venezuela, we haven't even gone to the United Nations pushing to have Venezuela take the claim off. Now, you mentioned equipment. Gunboats, for example, we have more waters than anything in Guyana. What are we spending right now on GDP on defense?
Well, we're spending about 4-5% on the Army.
But I have not seen, Vaughn, any new gunboats patrolling the Quarantine River. I mean, the fact is there may be one or two that we have as a defense force, but to protect national assets. I mean, when you start becoming an oil country, you've got terrorism about, because now you are bringing down oil prices because now we're producing oil as part of it. Have we changed our doctrine in the defense strategy to prepare Guyana for what Guyana will become even 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now?
Well, basically, what we're talking about is changing our national defense doctrine. Basically, problem number one, deficiency number one in our current doctrine, this Venezuela. If we had an unprovoked aggression by Venezuela, our combined army and police, national police in Guyana could be destroyed within 1 hour. And as a nation, we have not, our policyholders have not confronted this issue. However we choose to solve the problem, whether we go into some kind of alliance with
Brazil,
Brazil, our Western partners. Yeah. For example, what's happening in South Korea right now, we see that North Korea on 2 occasions attacked South Korea, but South Korea has a defense policy and alliance with the United States, and basically the United States is working in conjunction with the South Koreans to protect their sovereignty, and we need to do something like that because Venezuela right now, as far as their Army and national concern, they could wipe us off.
But the point is, the fact is, we must have a national defense strategy that talks about current Guyana today, what the future of our country will be. If we open the borders to Brazil by building the road, which is one of our proposals to finish the road to Brazil, is to drill for oil in the Essequibo Coast. Companies